Hello guys, so we are now in Lisbon and pleasure to meet here Amy Wu, who is partner at Lightspeed Ventures fund, one of the biggest venture capital fund with 20 billion under management. Nice to meet you here, Amy.
Great, thanks so much for having me.
So can you tell us about your background and how did you get into crypto world?
Yeah, so I started angel investing in this space a couple of years ago, but and Lightspeed actually has been investing in crypto since 2013. We invested in companies like blockchain.com and Bitmain from a number of years ago, and then Audius, and then over time, and then at the beginning of this year, I started covering crypto for Lightspeed and full time, and we've made a number of investments since then, including sort of FTX and Alchemy announced recently, and a number of investments across DeFi.
And when did you start working with Lightspeed?
About 3 years ago.
Oh, and how did you know out about Bitcoin? Which year was it?
I'm late to the party, so I started investing in it maybe 2016, 2017, and held through the last, bear market, and then but really kind of dove in and understood like Web3 or DeFi as it's called, last summer, closer to about a year ago.
Me same. I got in 2017, but now it seems it's not that late. We are still good.
Yeah, we're still very early in this space. I think that the first primitives have been sort of founded, what people call DeFi 1.0, but just from a sheer number of people participating in Web3, right now we're still super early. I think there's still, let's call it on order of a few 100 million people who are holding crypto, maybe, and that's probably growing pretty rapidly globally, but in terms of participation in DeFi, it's still well under 10 million people, because you have people having multiple wallets, etc. And so I think we've got a long ways to go still.
Yeah, we are still very early. And you are quite big into gaming and NFTs. Do you think it will help to grow wider adoption of crypto?
I absolutely do. Because when you look at participation in apps in the world, consumer apps, including gaming, participation is higher than anything else, right? That is your core forms of entertainment. Mm-hmm. So you have the big social networks, each with billions of users, and then you have games. Some of the largest games in the world have hundreds of millions of players active per on a monthly basis. And so as social networks and gaming companies are looking into crypto and Web3, I absolutely think that's going to be what brings over the next 100 million people into Web3, next billion people. And in the gaming use case is super interesting for NFTs, because I think right now, this year, we are sort of, I want to say, on the tail end of the second NFT rally, right? There was one in Q1. There was, I think the NFT prices sort of crashed in April, and then we reached another height, sort of over the summer. And they're down a little bit right now again. But what people are still are looking for is a use case for their NFTs. Mm-hmm. And a great one is really being able to use them in a game, because there's already a history of people buying game assets, using game items, mm-hmm. and actually paying a lot of money for it, thousands of dollars for a rare item. Yeah. And so the NFT use case is a natural extension of that. And in fact, it imbues sort of like a greater sense of ownership to the player. And so, we've long felt like gaming was the best use case for NFTs.
And why do you think that the crypto gaming picked off? Because we had a drop in May on crypto market, and actually the crypto games were still not that big, and then with a boom of AXS Infinity, I guess, in the mid of July, all other gaming companies as well started growing more and more. What was the reason of such a rapid growth?
Yeah, it really was AXS Infinity and the scale that it got to. So, at the time, there has been blockchain games for the last couple of years, right? AXS Infinity essentially is an overnight success. I think about 3-4 years in the making, 4 years even. There's Gods Unchained, there's a number of other crypto games at the time, but I think it was a combination of a number of things that happened. One, the AXS Infinity took off in the Philippines. It happens to play to earn. If you're acquiring players via play to earn, it's a very viral feedback loop. And when you can make if you're a person living in the Philippines and you make 10 times or 5 times or however many times more than minimum wage playing a game, you're going to do that and you're going to tell your friends. Yeah, and so it was reaching a critical mass of that in the Philippines kind of around midsummer of this year, around Axie Infinity. At the same time, they had a like small but very passionate community, and so there were streamers that were starting to become bigger, like in a streaming community on Twitch and YouTube. And then also there was a documentary around Play to Earn on YouTube that sort of took off. That was, you know, a combination of YGG and also Axie Infinity people were part of. And then lastly, they moved from Ethereum to Ronin because, you know, with gaming assets, people are buying, you know, at the time, pretty cheap Axies. And you can't have high gas fees doing that. It doesn't work when your primary purchase is actually not that much more than the gas fee, or less than the gas fee. So it's a combination of everything that really sparked Axie Infinity's huge rise that I think is led by demand from players in the Philippines. And then when they started making over $10 million a day in revenues, let alone like GMV, it just inspired the imagination, I think, of like gaming publishers, investors, other teams creating games, and everyone started looking at blockchain gaming as a space around that.
And you know, made a joint fund with Solana Ventures and FTX of 300 million to invest into NFT games. And do you think that Solana is the best blockchain for gaming for now?
So Solana Ventures, FTX, and us have a $100 million gaming initiative right now, and the primary goal is to invest in, you know, companies in the gaming and also sort of the infrastructure for gaming ecosystem. We have been so if I take a step back, generally at Lightspeed, we believe in a multi-chain world going forward. You know, we're certainly investors in Ethereum, but we've been following the Solana ecosystem for some time. You know, have gotten to know Anatoly, Raj, and some of the other team members over the last, you know, number of months, and have been collaborating with them and also FTX on gaming initiatives. And this felt like a natural next phase of our partnership. I have observed, so over the last few months, there's been a wave of developers coming onto Solana. I think huge kudos to them for not only having a very performant blockchain, but also actually, you know, curating this amazing community for developers to build projects on. So I think there's about 1,000 developer teams now developing on Solana, and a very large number of them are actually gaming teams. And so we're really excited to be able to find, you know, some of the great teams on the network.
And still, I see there is quite a shortage of Solana developers, so everybody is looking for them now.
Yes, absolutely. Lots of projects looking for developers, so it's very easy. People can, you know, DM me if they want to get introduced to some of the great projects developing on the ecosystem.
Yeah, and what are your investing criteria when you decide whether to invest into a project or not?
We are a very long-term oriented venture fund, and so we're really looking to make like a 10-year long plus relationship with the entrepreneur, which is very different from hedge funds in the space. Our investment thesis is that, like, you know, we want to partner with people, we want to invest over the lifetime of the company, not just once, kind of initially, and then we get involved across like hiring, strategy, you know, and BD, a number of different areas. And so we're looking first and foremost for great teams. We're looking for teams that have the passion, have the vision, is building something that isn't derivative of somebody else, but is building something that's truly like innovative in whether it's Solana ecosystem or another ecosystem in crypto, and you know, and this is our criteria for outside of crypto as well. And then specifically for this gaming initiative, we're looking for teams that you can either be on the gaming native side or the crypto native side, ideally both, I would say. But I would say, like, we're looking for teams with a working understanding of both.
And can you tell us about your recent investments in Lightspeed?
Yes, of course. So recently, so I think a couple of days ago, we announced our investment in Fairway Games, and that is founded by Alex Paley and Dennis Leadenoff. They were GMs at Scopely, which is a big mobile gaming studio, and then before that at Blue Mobile, which has since been acquired by EA. and they've been game makers for well over the decade. And we backed them. We backed their seed round actually earlier this year when they spun out to launch a browser gaming studio. It was a huge opportunity for us at the time. Browser gaming used to be big like 10, 15 years ago, and then, or actually even longer than that, like 20 years ago. And then there was a rise of mobile gaming, and there weren't really developers like building in browser anymore. And we saw this return of browser gaming kind of in the last year, as like browser technology's gotten a lot better, as the teams have slowly become a lot better. We felt like Fairway Games was the best team, and they were building this game called Mini Royale, which is a battle royale fast-paced shooter on browser. And the experience feels like a PC experience. It doesn't feel like a hyper-casual browser experience.
So can it be played as well from mobile browser?
Yes, but the experience is best on the PC browser. And they felt like that the browser format was the best for crypto gaming because you have native wallet integration, with MetaMask and Phantom, and so it was the best experience for blockchain. And so they started building on Solana and also integrating with FTX Pay in the NFT marketplace earlier. And so we decided to co-lead their Series A along with FTX.
Great. And what about NFTs? Do you hold any NFTs yourself?
I do. I hold a number of gaming assets. Usually, when I meet really cool gaming projects and or artists, and then we'll also buy their NFTs as well to support the project.
Do you play any blockchain games yourself, or you just hold the NFTs?
I hold the NFTs. I haven't sold any gaming NFTs. I do play a lot of games. Huge first-person shooter fan, and so I am actually, right now I'm playing Escape from Tarkov, actually, which is a hardcore shooter game, and then also play a lot of Mini Royale as well. But yeah, I play test games all the time. I feel like as a gaming investor, you have to play test the game, when you have the chance to get a feel for what it feels like, and also to sort of like see what the innovations in the space are.
And how do you see NFTs in gaming? Do you think it's just overhyped and with the trending of the gaming, and what will happen after when we see various market again? Yeah,
so I think that an NFT drop is an incredible way to both engage your gaming community before your game has launched. So for example, Fairway is launching on Solana, I think in December. So before then, you can play the game on the browser, but you can't actually participate in the token currency yet. They're still not launching that. So it's an early way to get involved with a gaming project, and it's also a great way for a gaming studio to raise money before their game has launched as well, and you start monetizing the game. I don't think that's enough though. It's great to have a beautiful sort of set of NFTs to drop your community, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to make a great game. Like, that's where you're going to get the 5-year, 10-year plus longevity that some of these huge gaming titles like Counter-Strike and World of Warcraft and others have demonstrated they can do, and that involves building a really fun and very sort of like full game system and game content for players to play, and that's ultimately more important. That's ultimately more important to me, and I think players alike.
Yeah, I agree with you. And besides gaming and NFTs, do you focus on any other areas in crypto?
Yes, absolutely. So we cover cross crypto. We have invested in 3 exchanges on the CeFi side. So FTX, Blockchain.com, and Pintu, which is in Indonesia. We also are investors in a number of other companies. So Eco, on the sort of Web3 DeFi side, investors in Solana ecosystem, but also we were lead investors in Arbitrum, which is the leading L2 on Ethereum, and they are, that was founded by Stephen Goldfeeder, and then also Terra ecosystem and Polkadot One. We're investors in Akala and Parallel Finance, and another recent one that we announced is Alchemy, which is right now the leading developer platform in DeFi, and they actually have the majority, actually over 50% of DeFi protocols use them for various APIs and dev tooling on the blockchain. It happens that it's still pretty difficult to build on blockchain networks, And Alchemy is out there making that a lot easier so that developers are just focusing on building awesome apps.
And what do you think we need for the mass adoption of crypto?
Great UX. I think we need applications to build user experiences that are a lot easier to use than what they are today. Because today, if you look at call it like, few million people that are using using DeFi apps regularly, they tend to be more savvy, right, in crypto. They probably, understand how to come in and out of projects. But to bring on the next billion users, you need a great user experience. It needs to be a lot easier to use. And, I personally have always been a fan of the Phantom wallet on Solana as an example of that. When you use that, it's very intuitive, very easy to use. I don't feel dumb using it. And I think that's really important in terms of onboarding sort of the next wave of users.
Yeah, it should be much more simplified for average users.
Exactly. Right now, most of the time I'm sending money to various places, whether it's a wallet or an application. It takes a while for settlement, and I'm not sure whether I've just lost money or not. It's a very suboptimal experience. So still.
Yeah. And now big corporations as well getting into this space, in the NFTs, metaverse, and Facebook now rebranded to Meta.
Yeah.
What do you think about this move?
I think it validates Web3, absolutely. When you see Facebook and I think ByteDance launched NFTs, and you have a bunch of sports teams, whether it's the NFL and then NBA and others all looking at the space. It validates that this is Web3 is something that users and companies alike are interested in exploring and meaningful. This concept of decentralization and bring ownership, power, and value back to the users and also the creators. I think that Web 2 companies moving to Web 3 need to realize that there is a concept of decentralization, and that might be hard for them, right? Web 2 companies are built on centralization. As they get larger and larger, they have shareholders that they have to, optimize around, and they make more revenue and bottom line profit by centralizing their platform and competing against people in their ecosystem. And so I think that concept is very different from the Web3 one, and they'll have to really embrace a different business model in some cases, go to market in order to resonate with the Web3 community. And so I think we'll see. I'm pretty bullish on Web3 native companies actually becoming the next, wave of social networks and big gaming companies and otherwise.
Did you invest into any Web3 social networks?
There aren't that many yet, right? So I participated in BitClout actually. I'm a personal investor in BitClout, and I think that was a really amazing, example of what social networks on, in Web3 could look like. I think I'm really excited to see the next wave of Web3 native social networks. Aave is going to be, is building one right now, both social network primitive, sort of a new standard for NFTs, but then also their own social network. And so I'm super excited to see that. And Kevin Cho at Rowley is also building really great creator tooling and a network as well.
And what other trends do you see on the market currently?
So in crypto, another area that I'm super excited about is actually infrastructure, sort of security and insurance, and the next sort of evolution of that in Web3. And if you look at today, there's a lot of hacks, there's a lot of vulnerabilities that sort of are a challenge for protocols, and also, that's on the insurance side. And so I think I'm super interested to see kind of what the next gen of insurance looks like for users. Right now, I think what you see is protocols, when there's a vulnerability, they typically do pay back users who have lost funds. But how does that scale over time, right? And then how can security companies reimagine for decentralization, catch some of these problems before they're released into code? And then on the infrastructure side, I stand by that. I think it's really difficult still to build on blockchain, and the blockchains themselves are still building out their infrastructure and scaling to even be able to bring on the next 100 million people, right, into their networks. And so I think we're really early on developer tooling still. I think Alchemy has done an incredible job, really just becoming a leader in the market. And I think in the graph, people like the graph as well in terms of providing on-chain data. But I think we'll see a lot more companies in this space.
Yeah, I guess now all crypto users are some kind of testers of all these DeFi crypto applications, as there may be vulnerabilities and etc.
Yeah.
Did Lightspeed Ventures invest into any insurance protocols?
We haven't yet, but we're really excited about what some of the people are doing in this space.
And the last question, what are your altcoins picks currently?
Oh gosh. You know, one of the areas that I'm spending some time in right now is in DeFi 2.0, as people call it. You know, there's protocols like, you know, of course, Ohm has gotten a lot of attention, KlimaDAO and some others. And I think we're all trying to understand what this sort of next-gen financial engineering really looks like, and you know, how sustainable some of these protocols are. This is an area that I'm looking into right now.
Do you do a lot of staking, yield farming?
I do some personally, but I try to spend all my time meeting with new projects. It's a little bit less so personally.
Cool. And what do you wait from Solana Conference, you think, specifically for it?
Yeah, so we've been, you know, at Lightspeed, we've been friends with the Solana team for some time, and so really, it's really like a celebration, you know, of just how far, you know, this community has come. Of course, like Anatoly, Raj, and their entire team work. And I'm really excited to meet a lot of developers on the ecosystem this week, first and foremost.
Great. Thank you for such an interesting conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna, for the time and having me here.